Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah.
Oh shit, we're already recording. Thanks, Dragonate.
You're welcome.
Dude, so obviously, well, you just want to get right into it.
Sure, man. You might as well.
All right, Matthew, Rizzle Show is back in effect. We're back from Rizzlefest. And yeah, let's just dive right into it, dude. You organized the whole shebang, of course, with the help of a lot of amazing people that came together and sponsored and scheduled really fun events and all that stuff. But yeah, give us the top to bottom from your eyes.
Man, it feels good, dude. It feels like, I don't know, part of the point of doing this was just for the sake of doing it and to see if it was good and, I don't know, just sort of tapped into something that I felt like we could tap into. And I think it accomplished that, man. I feel like it checked all those boxes. And I'm just like flattered that like so many people came out not knowing really anything about what was going on. Like everyone was like pretty much down for the adventure. And we had like, Meme Explorers crowd come all the way from Sweden. We had Josh from Cryptovoxels come all the way from New Zealand. Scott from Momo Art come from South Korea. Like Tim from Jack's Hideaway, like drove all the way across the country, like literally from California to Tennessee. Not to mention just like everyone who like road trip down and like flew in from all these other places. And I think the two biggest common grounds were like, they're all Web3 native, metaverse native, like people who have been around for like a very long time. And also people who I think were ready for something else, man, some sort of adventure. And I feel like I had been sort of beating that drum for a long time heading into this, that like, the same old shit is not like fun anymore, or is not, it can be fun, man, but it's just not the adventure it once was. And this is like an adventurous crowd who, or at least like historically, like a very adventurous crowd who's interested in pushing boundaries and trying new things. And I feel like it hit, man. I had like tons of like positive feedback. I mean, everything wasn't perfect. There were like a lot of unpredictable like things to take into account. I mean, I've never done anything like this before. I don't think like most people did who showed up, but it was cool to see like everyone sort of pitch in and go like straight commune style, right? It was like, you walk into the kitchen and like Brookhawk and Elbow are like there washing dishes together while like Sky Bravo's chopping up onions and like, I don't know, man. It was really cool to take all those people and put them in that environment and, I don't know, just sort of be a kid again, but also like be able to sit around the campfire and, brainstorm for like hours and shit, like, stuff that you wouldn't have the opportunity to do when you meet up with these people at like a regular conference and everything. So I feel like I gained more personally than I do at any of these things, both in like networking and connections. And also, man, I don't feel like fucking trashed afterwards. Like, it was like actually really fun and relaxing. And I got back yesterday and I like, I feel refreshed, man. I feel like I can hit the ground running like now that I'm back and everything. And I don't know, man, it's sort of a ramble, but defining this thing has like been very difficult. And I'm still sort of trying to do that. But the big picture, I think that box got checked, man. And I think people had a really good time. And I wasn't even, dude, I was so preoccupied in like trying to pull this one off that like towards the end, everyone's like, yo, so we're going to run it back next year and we're doing this again, right? And like all this shit. And I'm like, dude, that is very flattering. But like, this was like 8 months in the making or 10 months or something. I'm like, let's give me like a breather. And then like, we can start thinking about next year. But I'm flattered that people would even want to come next year. based on what happened, because I don't think anyone really knew but the vibe was good, man. Everyone really got along well, and like 30 people just chilling.
Yeah. From my experience with the sort of like really focused, more, I don't want to say intimate, because like we got a crowd at Rizzlefest. It was like 40 some folks. Like it was hopping, and there are people doing things all over the place. There are little pods that formed. But like to your point, these sorts of gatherings, more focused, definitely biasing for like a smaller group of folks, more curated, even if you want to call it that. It allows for so much more deep connections and experiences versus like the NFT NYCs, like the big mega events, which give you more breadth. They give you more width to kind of roam around and like meet all the people, but never in a deep, sometimes meaningful, but like never deeply, right? Which is the big contrast. Like the perfect example from Rizzlefest compared to NFT NYC. So like Easy and Brookhawk were both NFT NYC. I met up with Easy for a second at the Crypt Gallery event. Brookhawk was there too. Couldn't bump into him, and we were bummed because we had been trying to meet for the whole week. But I had to meet a whole bunch of people. Brookhawk was doing his thing with his folks, and it just didn't overlap. And fucking finally at Rizzlefest, like Brookhawk and I, and like we connected, and we were like we were giggling, like we were doing all the fun things, and dude, he was just cracking me up, and I think I may have been cracking him up too, and it was just hilarious. I felt like finally, like we connected after a long time, and same thing with like Easy, like we're standing around the fire pit, and Easy was just roasting. Who was he roasting? Sky Bravo's Small Techniques. Yeah, he was just killing him, and it was perfect. And I haven't laughed that much in a long time. And it was also an opportunity to like break off with the meme crew, go fishing with them. Jonathan, Matthias, Johan, like it was really special, man. And we were able to do our own things at our own speeds and grow roots with our family that we've known in many instances for years and years, right? So that was the amazing part of Rizzlefest, and any other any other small, more tight knit meetups that are set up outside, not adjacent to, not part of, not during these big events, but separate from it, to really give it the proper atmosphere for folks to do their thing. And I know you're talking about people asking and wanting to play this back next year, and you're like, fuck, I just need to like probably have a long weekend at some point after this. I have a few ideas on that front that I'll share later, but I'm also like similarly like not tired from this. And it's not like we didn't stay up late. We stayed up late. Like I wasn't there for the whole time like you. I got in late Thursday, had a full day Friday, and then had a bounce early Saturday morning. But we were up really late into Friday morning. It was like 2:30, 3 a.m. And then same thing Friday night into Saturday. Up really late. Folks gathered around the fire, talking, bullshitting, laughing, and doing their thing. And I feel energized, man. I feel like spiritually nourished. And it's such a testament to what you put together. The off the beaten path location in Tennessee, which is the first time that I had the opportunity to visit. And I think this is the same for a lot of other folks.
Me too.
And then, yeah, just everyone, like you said, pitching in, doing their part, adding to the experience for everyone else. It was amazing, dude.
Yeah, man. It was fun. Like, my wife, who's actually like a big help, shout out Crypto Hippo. She has legit event planning experience and actually worked with NFT 42 to run some events and helped out on the back end with this tremendously. But she always gives me like a hard time in like a good natured way about like, she's like, how do you work with these people all the time and you don't like really know anything about their lives at all? And part of that is my fault, but part of that is also like just due to the nature of like, working online and like, you set up a meeting with someone and it typically has like an agenda and a purpose. And it's not like nobody's trying to get to know each other, but like also everyone's busy and trying to get their shit done. And so, like you were saying, man, a lot of these people we've been working with or like swimming in adjacent circles for years now. And it's cool to like not only be able to like talk about those things and talk about future things within the context of like, you know, the area that we work in, but also just like get to know these people and like stay up late, like bullshitting and like laughing with them. And it does just like strengthen those bonds and, you know, sort of like reaffirms who you do want to work with moving forward. Right. I mean, like given the choice between like a few people with similar skill sets and one that you saw get roasted at the campfire at Rizzlefest and like had a few good laughs with, you know, that shit matters, man. And especially now as the industry expands like it is, it's nice to sort of like pull the circle in tight and like strengthen some of those bonds and everything. But dude, also to the staying up late point, man, it was not totally intentional to have like such a lazy morning, but the vibe was nice that like, you know, when you go to these conferences, a lot of times you stay up late, but you got shit to do the next day. So there's always that in the back of your head, right? Like, fuck, if I don't get up by like a certain time and like catch an Uber to something, I'm going to miss meeting up with like so-and-so. And so there's always like something to do or whatever. But like, you know, the ability to just like sleep in and like roll out for some coffee when you feel like it or whatever. And that, you know, everyone was sort of doing the same thing was kind of like a nice pace on the back end of some late nights and everything, man. Yeah, dude, it was cool. Dude, so you missed sports day. So I think you were there for like the day that it rained part of the day, which actually ended up working out just great because it gave Scott from Numomo like a perfect captive audience to do his workshop, which was like very well received. I still have to upload. I have like 26 fucking pictures of Elbow's head or something, or 36 or something. I'm like looking through my Rizzlefest pictures, like 36 pictures of Elbow's head that I gotta upload so Scott can make a head out of them or some shit that we can import into the metaverse. But that was fun, man, and gave him a chance to do that. And dude, the fact that he came all the way out from South Korea and seemed to have a great time. We were playing poker and shit. You know, the rain came and we had like board game night, like true like camp style stuff. This shit was fun, man.
It was really fun. And that the lazy aspect, like there's no set schedules, even though there's a loose schedule that folks were kind of adhering to. But it was like, hey, people get up. Majority of people had a late night last night, people coming over across the country. It's like, hey, we had it set for breakfast in the morning, and then it's just like it happens when it happens, but it happened, and that was cool. Like everything that had been scheduled was happened, which is wild. Like normally there's cancellations, some people can't make it, et cetera, et cetera. But everyone that said they were going to make it and like put on the events, at least as far as I could tell, they were there doing their thing. Like, yeah, Scott's photogrammetry tutorial was really sick. I think it generated a lot of cool discussion, good questions. He was surprised too. He was like, oh shit, like Rizzle knows what the hell he's doing. Like he's been in this. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like he's been doing his thing for a minute. He's familiar with all these tools and he's been kicking the tires on the AI, like image generators for a minute. So this seems like second nature for him. And then that kind of expanded into like we have to talk about the bus that Sky Bravo like parked there in the basketball lot that everyone was like tatting up over the course of the event. Like, let's just hit pause and talk about that. Like that was one of the focal points in camp.
Yeah, that sort of just manifested itself. I actually strongly discouraged Sky Bravo from getting the bus. I told the story a couple times at Rizzlefest. You know, we were originally trying to get the unicorn bus from NFT NYC to do airport transport and double as like a sound stage. And that just fell through logistically. And so, but Sky Bravo still had it in his head that he wanted to get this bus. Or a bus or whatever. He is like some bus dream. Shout out Sky Bravo, man. I mean, he was a fucking tremendous help. But anyway, but the bus thing was a different story. So I'm like, dude, we cannot get this bus, right? Like the unicorn bus is different because, you know, we would pay them to do airport transport, use their sound system, but then they like take the bus and go away. But if we get this bus, then we have a bus, and I don't want a bus after Rizzlefest or whatever. So like, I'm like, dude, we can't. It's too close to the event. We can't get this bus. Like, I'm sorry, man. It's not financially in the cards. It's logistically like a nightmare, like blah, blah, blah. And so like, you know, 2 days before Rizzlefest, he's like, dude, I have a confession. I bought the bus. I was like, you bought the bus? He's like, yeah, man, I got the bus. I just like needed the bus. And I was like, all right, man, like, you know, it's your bus now, man, whatever you want to do with it. So this was all Sky Bravo's like, you know, bus brainchild, honestly, from like start to finish. And it was awesome, man. Like that was sort of just like this we had like a few ongoing things, man. Like the Metafin sponsored this fishing contest that people were constantly peeling off and just sort of, you know, throwing some lines in the water to try and catch fish. I think Fly Frogs actually was originally in the lead for rescuing 3 chairs that fell in, but then eventually caught the biggest fish. And I think Easy Brookhawk got second. But the bus was another thing, man, that was just sort of there. And there was like a bunch of cans of spray paint. And, you know, Sandy Meows pulled up and threw a cat on there. And there's a lot of that going on from start to finish. And then I actually did like a decent 3D scan of the bus that I haven't had a chance to mess around with since I just got back. But, you know, want to play around with the file type and see if we can't get it into, you know, the file that gets it into these metaverses and stuff, which shouldn't be too difficult. I'm not Scott, so I need a little bit of help on the back end here. But I think for the most part, I know the people and the steps. But dude, that it was stuff like that, man. There was like the Avagachi mural like going on throughout the course of the event that was like cool to see the updates on. Yeah, so there was like some concurrent stuff going on. But dude, you dipped out before sports day, and like the rain actually caused us to bump flashlight tag to the next night. And I like one of the things I would run back is like scheduling all the physical activities, like, you know, pacing them out a little bit more, because like it just so ended up there's like a fly frog run in the morning, and then fucking Meme Explorers dodgeball, man. You like think about like, I don't know, dodgeball in gym class. Maybe it's just been too long for me, but I'm like, you know, this will be fun. But like, dude, we chill with some like really competitive people, man. And Johan throws like Randy Johnson and shit. And like, you know, Steady is like a sniper. And so like, you know, it was like all out war on the dodgeball court. And then like a couple hours later was Brookhawk's basketball tournament, which like was awesome, man. We had like a whole bunch of 3-on-3 teams and played like sort of a tournament of champions, like a bracket type of thing. It was a glorious moment at the end because Trizzlet just could not stop his wife, Michelle, on the basketball court, man. And she just dominated the finals. Trizzlet was on my team and we were just ragging on him. But his wife was just beasting on him, man. She earned the nickname Michelle O'Neal after that. And then after that, we had the flashlight tag, which had been bumped from the previous night. Oh, there was canoeing in the middle too. So everyone was just wrecked, man, by the time we got to like flashlight tag. And we tried to make it happen. We did like one round. And I think people just sort of like rolled around in the grass and waited to get found, and then like went back to the campfires something. So most of the things happened in most of the ways we envisioned. But the beauty was it didn't matter, man. Like everyone had a good time. And the cool thing about like all the stuff happening was like, you know, I just sort of put out an open call. Like, this is just all, we didn't like import any like events or speakers or like, you know, I didn't pay anyone to come perform. Like we didn't have the money to, even if we wanted to. But this was all like, you know, community generated content. And, you know, it was a cool mix.
Generated experiences, dude.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that was like sort of what I wanted it to be, but you never know how this shit's going to fall together, you know?
I want to go back to what you're talking about, your wife, Crypto Hippo, pointing out. I think we had chatted about this like right before I had to dip with Scott to go back to the airport on Saturday. But the whole fact that this was planned and like coordinated digitally first, and you were liaising with Sky Bravo for the whole thing, and then at one point I think your wife was just like, do you even know who you're talking to like plan this? And like, you already sent the money. Like, do you know who you gave the money to? Or like, what's going on? You want to talk about the background of the actual planning and like securing the camp and all that stuff and how that happened? Because I think it's really like, from an outsider's perspective, seems sketch as fuck. But like from our perspective, this is like how we do things. And it's quite powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Somehow like, it's oddly similar to how we started the podcast, except there was not like a whole bunch of people paying you like that. I was like, oh shit. But we sort of started off not really knowing each other at all. It was just sort of like a vibe, and we had like mutual goals and just decided to trust each other and just sort of roll with things. And dude, I don't know if we've ever put anything down on paper, like literally ever. Like you and I, we've worked together for like fucking ever now. And so I met Sky Bravo. I met Sky Bravo briefly in NFT NYC. He was hosting the Crypto Voxels event. So I wasn't, and he had Connie Digital up on stage and My World, and I was like heckling a little bit from the sidelines. And so I knew him, I knew of him, and knew he wasn't like a total rando or whatever. And so then when I lobbed the idea out there, Lawson put me in contact with him, knowing that he has some camp connections and has done some stuff like this on like a smaller scale, but like in the vein of like what I was going for and everything. And so, dude, so I just sort of went with it, man. Like I trust Lawson, and by proxy, but also, dude, I trust Lawson in the same way I trust you, man. It's like I've been burned in like very few situations, and it does happen, but for the most part, man, when I've trusted my instincts, especially within the context of Web3, I've like managed to be pretty on point. And this was one of those things, man. I was like, I trust Lawson. I've seen his work. I know he's in it for the long haul. I've got no reason to question his integrity. And if he speaks for someone, that's good enough for me. And so I just started talking to Sky Bravo, man, and we had like a million calls in the beginning trying to just sort of define like what exactly this experience was going to be like, and like trying to figure out the logistics. And he actually explored like a couple different campsites. He actually went to them and had hosted at this specific campsite before, so he was a little bit familiar with it. And so that's basically how we landed on that, and started building out like the framework for how we're going to do ticket sales and like all this shit that we've like we both sort of have some knowledge about, but not like a ton. And so a lot of it was like a learning process that if we were to do it again, it would take a fraction of the time, because we sort of we're learning in real time, ironing out the kinks. But at one point we did the pre-sale, and people were starting to buy tickets and everything, and my wife is like, your friends are like sending this dude money. Do you know who this guy is? And I sort of had this like, oh shit moment, like, like, I don't know, man. I just started questioning everything at that point. I'm like, shit, is Sky Bravo like potentially playing like the long rug on me? Like I've had like elaborate scams like attempted to get at me before, and just made me start questioning all these things. And I actually like, sort of hit up Sky Bravo in like a, moment of panic or whatever. And he was like, dude, I was wondering like when you were going to start wondering who I was and like whether or not I was going to rob you or some shit. And so we sort of worked it out, dude. Like, there was a portion of the funds that were being taken care of in fiat. There was a portion of the funds that were being taken care of in crypto. And so we sort of balanced it out in a way that like we couldn't really rug each other too bad if we wanted to, and just sort of agreed to sort of shake hands and make it work. And pretty early on, man, it got to a point where like I got to know him well enough that I'm like, this dude's trying to make a name for himself within the context of this space, and his reputation is everything much like mine is. And I think, he was comfortable working with me because he knew that, and vice versa. And also this is going to be like a really positive thing for both of us if we can pull it off. And so I think like, as the thing got bigger, Sky Bravo's urge to rug me and run away with all the money got less and less. No, I'm just kidding. No, man, it was just one of those things, man, that we just had to roll with it based on trust. And the thing came up too quickly that if we had gotten, let me take a step back, man, because this has sort of like been the crux of like a lot of things, man, and why I love Web3 and I like to move fast. Because if we had gotten bogged down in like the bureaucracy and like signing all these waivers and hitting up lawyers to like draft up all this shit and like, making this a complete locked up business with like contracts so that we don't sue each other and all this shit, it would have never happened, man. It would have never gotten out of the gate, or we would have had to move it to 2024 And so, made the executive decision, both of us did, to just say, like, fuck it, let's just move fast and execute this thing and make it happen. And we're just going to roll on trust and, no regrets, man. It's not an approach that makes my wife very comfortable. I'll tell you that much. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you want to do big things, man, you got to roll the dice a little bit with, and trust your gut and your intentions.
Yeah. I mean, crypto's collaboration. I've said that for years and years at this point. And you mentioned the reputation. I mean, that's everything in the space. And the fact that there's always potentially money on the line, like you're only as good, or your money-making opportunity essentially is only as good as your reputation. So it makes the most sense for everyone to maintain that reputation at any given time, to ensure that they can keep eating, keep having fun, keep making money on the internet, right? It's really powerful. There's other tools that we could probably use to like safeguard the transfer of funds and things like that, having like certain milestones there to unlock it. But like we know essentially the folks that we're working with at this point for like these sorts of things well enough to take on a little bit extra risk when it comes to things. But I think it's a testament really to the space and like why we're all here anyway doing these things together, because we can, and because there's these forces and incentives that facilitate and reinforce like the good actors for the most part. Of course, it's like there are potential pitfalls and downfalls and downsides that we need to be aware of, but you don't see people normally in Web 2, like the folks that have met one another playing like Fortnite or other games, like doing these sorts of things on the regular. Maybe once in a blue moon, like, wow, after like 9 years, I finally met my best friend who I played Battlefield with, like online with, like we just happened to be in the same airport. Wow, what up? But like, if you come into Web3 and you're doing these sort of like digital experiences, part of any of these crypto communities, making money, or at least have the ability to make money or whatever, like you can do this whenever you want. And that's such a departure from how people live their digital lives previously. And because of everything that we were talking about, like the actual experience of meeting everyone at Rizzlefest, dude, like I'm sure we just reinforced everyone's belief in this space and how their happiness quotient, like I don't want to say exponentially, but like to a very, very high degree, which then turns those folks into ambassadors for what's going on here over and above like the speculation that catches most of the headlines. So I hope more people take the initiative and put together these events. It's a lot of hard work, but dude, you chunked it out over a long period of time, which was super smart. Again, like you had an amazing wife and support system and like an expert behind the scenes in Crypto Hippo helping you out and all of that, but it's doable. And like I was saying, dude, I have a couple ideas that we could potentially leverage for the next go around, hopefully in a way that would make it logistically a little bit easier for you to plan. I have a buddy has a place in Ghost Town, like it's kind of like a ready-made town that we could potentially leverage. So I'll be chatting with him about that, and we'll get back to you on that. But that would make the destination a little bit easier, and there's like a living ecosystem community over there that we could kind of like drop down into. So it's more of a matter of just like coordinating on the location and getting the crew together, and then layering in the experiences after that. But yeah, more on that. It's very much TBD.
Dude, very exciting. A lot of people have a lot of ideas, and a lot of people, more than I anticipated, were willing to do it again, which is awesome and flattering. And like, I don't know, man, it like, I know consensus is coming up, like, in a few days and everything. And, was just sort of like reflecting on this whole experience. And I'm like, dude, like, and Skrilla's post too, that we talked about last week, I think, where, a lot of these are just sort of like high school reunions. And we had mentioned like, you've done that a few times, and like this really like exacerbated that for me, because I'm like, damn, man, now the idea of flying to something like Consensus to just meet up with a couple people at a time for a few minutes, I'm like, it almost seems like entirely pointless at this point, because I'm like, I'm just ready for something like deeper, man. And this was that. Like I'm ready to like get past like the fluff, like high school reunion, like that. And nothing taken away from anyone who hasn't done that yet, because it is an incredible experience. Like if you haven't met all the people you've been, working with and involved with, like, hell yeah, go to the high school reunion. But once you've been to a few of those, it's like, what's next type of thing. And a few people were like kicking out different ideas, like you are, man. You're like, okay, let's run this concept back in a different location, or like mix up like with different events, or like, something like that. And it's cool. It feels like the next evolution of like what people are looking for. And I know I'm not like the only one to be taking stabs in this direction. We've mentioned like a few other people who have, sort of taking a shot at running like an offbeat type of singular event. But
like shout out Coburn, who did the Mocha Church thing right before we went down the Rizzlefest. He was giving us a shout out, saying how you were doing the same sort of thing in the same spirit, small focused meetups, like loose schedules and stuff like that. Like there's a growing number of us and the people that are impacted and get to participate in these experiences. Like it's not like life changing, but it makes a major imprint. That's hard to forget.
Yeah, and it's nice to circle the wagons in like a meaningful way. Like, a lot of the people who attended this have been around for like a very long time and played like a critical role in the evolution of the space itself from inception. And it's cool to be able to circle the wagons with those people and just sort of do some blue sky thinking, like what does come next? Like, we are, like, all we're here from the beginning and we got it to this point, or we played a role in getting it to this point, but we're at like sort of a weird point. But a lot of that old crowd is still together, and they seem to be the ones mostly attending these like offbeat things. This didn't attract a lot of noobs. Although shout out to Josh from CryptoVoxels, man, who I know is new to the space. And I don't know how much he got thrust into this by Ben Nolan, but dude came all the way from like New Zealand to go to NFT NYC, and then like road trip down to Tennessee to, sort of get a pulse on the community and everything. There's like a lot of, OGs from CryptoVoxels who were there. Like maybe like
Josh was a trooper, and he was getting grilled by Brookhawk on Friday. Like it was there was the gloves were off in that conversation, and Josh was not taking the punches but rolling with them and like being super honest. It was very cool to have that CryptoVoxels presence there.
It was.
I know they've been doing more things, being more present at some of the larger events, but it was nice to have someone from the project there, and hopefully they're able to turn that ship around in a positive direction. Sort of related to it, like On Cyber last week had a big like non-NFT NYC like On Cyber virtual meetup where they got a group of people in world, and for the most part it seemed like the technical situation was pretty much sorted. Robness was talking about how smooth the experience was top to bottom, including audio issues. I think they were all like in browser too, like they weren't like in a Discord in On Cyber. So some big changes there, but like Josh is a cool guy. They have a small, nimble, lean team. Hopefully they can corral everyone and go in the right direction, so we can keep kind of adding and injecting life into the virtual spaces as much as we had during the event. Sorry, there's a little tangent.
No, it's good. Dude, quick, the On Cyber thing, I saw some videos, man. It was like a little confusing to me because all the avatars had like their screen name was like fake, and then like a bunch of like random numbers and letters and everything. And I don't know, maybe they're real, man, but it reminded me of like the other side thing, the Bored Ape thing or whatever, that like, I don't know, there's like a million people in there, but like sure as hell looks like a lot of bots, man. Maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess there's something to be said for that, even if it can handle a lot of bots.
Yeah, I forget the dude that posted that. I saw that last night, and I had been looking and watching some of the live streams from the actual event. What was shared last night, it seemed more of just like showing what happened at the event without showing the event itself. It almost looked like a staging area. Okay. But the actual event, it looked dramatically different. It was in different spaces. So I think the post last night was just a demonstration and like a a reproduction of what happened, showing, hey, you can have all these different avatars here in the same space. It may have been staged for that, but the actual event, like, legitimately had a lot of people, looked and felt very performant. And again, like the audio issue appears to be, for the most part, some people seemed like they were complaining about janky audio, but on the whole, the majority of people seem to have a good audio and like virtual experience. So there definitely is something there. I wouldn't fade on cyber at all. At this point, it seems like they really are leaning into like the virtual experiences in these spaces, which, I mean, that's the drum we've been beating for fucking like almost 4 years at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they come out with. Cryptovoxels is such like a unique like animal compared to what they've got going on, and and especially with like the team compared to that one or whatever, it's like just sort of almost like comparing apples and oranges, even though they're like both fruit type of thing.
Cryptovoxels has the history, which is huge. On Cyber is still like obviously new, but I mean, because the story is so early and there really isn't that much history that has been written, like it won't take long to write a compelling narrative and like add to the history and make as much history in a different potential virtual space, right? So that's the threat. Also the opportunity from Cryptovoxel's side to leverage, but yeah.
I mean, I feel like and I agree with that, man. Like, the cliche, we're still early, but like on a long enough continuum, the beginning history, we're still probably in the beginning part of it when it comes to, Web3 metaverse type of stuff. But it was, if Cryptovoxel's play is to lean into like the community that was at Rizzlefest or whatever, I think that's like a smart move for them. And, honestly, man, like, on Cyber, I feel like On Cyber has like a slightly different user base, even though there's some overlap, but it was a pretty metaverse heavy like user base that has been around and is very knowledgeable for a long time that was at Rizzlefest. And, I feel like it was wise of Cryptovoxels to take a pulse on that. And it makes me question, like some of these other platforms, is Decentraland and stuff, some of these things that have been out there for a while. It's like, dude, like, a lot of the only people who use and are passionate about your platform were there. And, Cryptovoxels seem to be somewhat aware of that. And I don't know, man. I mean, On Cyber is doing cool stuff, but I also feel like they haven't quite unlocked this thing that everyone's trying to unlock, which is to appeal to normies. They're still talking to the same like fishbowl type of thing, even though they're offering like really cool fish food right now. But maybe not, man. I that's, to be completely honest, On Cyber isn't one that I've kept up with the most, mostly because their avatar situation was like really janky for so long, but clearly they've been working on that, and that does open up like a whole new sort of paradigm over there.
100%. Yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully Cryptovoxels gets its act together. I mean, having that like a 3-person team at this point, it allows them to be even more nimble, right? Hopefully it's not just going one way, following the whims of like a particular individual, but they do have that opportunity again to move really, really quickly and to lean in on certain areas and like experiment even more and double down on what seems to be winning. So hopefully things start to go in the right direction. But yeah, it was so fun, man. And I think a shout out is in order for notable folks that were absent that I wish were there. First among them, like Dragonate and Show, really wish those folks were there. Hopefully next go around. And like Connie, man, like going to these events with you, I always feel like there's a missing third spot for Connie. Like that's like the trifecta right there. But it's really cool to have everyone else there. And shout out Trizlet too. Some solid hugs that we got in there, some solid sidebars and all that good stuff amongst all the other folks that were there. But it's fun, man.
Yeah, man, it was cool. It was cool to see everyone just sort of turn out and like cut loose and have a good time. And I feel like it was productive, man. I feel like somehow it was like productive both in a professional way, but also in like I don't know. You said spiritual, man, which I wouldn't like. I don't know. That wouldn't be the word I like completely chose, but maybe it's the right word, man. It just feels like I did that, but I like needed that, and I don't get that feeling when I go to like conferences anymore. That I come back like, wow, that was like a really great experience that I took a lot from in a lot of ways personally or whatever. But this was one of those, man. It was really, really fucking cool, especially, working in the industry that we do. And, you're not in an office and, get to hang out in the, cafeteria or whatever and bullshit with people like in between stuff or whatever's. And, that type of workplace culture, I don't miss it that much. But it is a thing. And especially when you're able to sort of hand select the people that you are hanging out with, or the people hand select themselves, then you don't have like fucking, the annoying person who's always in the break room trying to talk to you and shit. It's like, people you actually want to hang out with and bullshit with around the water cooler or whatever. So being able to like actually create an environment that allows us to do that with some of these people that, I would have been doing that with for years, was just so fun, man. And, I imagine like a lot of these people who were there are a lot closer to each other than they were beforehand.
100%, man. Cool. And anything else you want to talk about Rizzlefest? I know we have the whip coming up on Thursday. It's a little bit in flight in terms of planning, doing a few last minute strategic spot-a-roos on the speaker front, but it seems like it'll be a little bit more mono-focused this week. And then we have a huge, not a huge, but like an important metaverse meetup or meetup of the metaverse minds next week that we're pretty excited for. Any bits from your end before we wrap up?
No, that should be good though. At least as of now, for next week, we got Jin and Justin from Monoverse and CK Bubbles and Ahad from Webverse. So it's like a pretty stacked panel for this State of the Metaverse. But that will be next week. In the meantime, we're sort of in flux, but we'll figure out something for Thursday. It'll be nice to be back, man. We were talking while we were at Rizzlefest, like, the travel day was actually the day that the whip would normally occur. So we've gone like 2 weeks now without a whip, and we were like, man,
no, it was just 1 week. The week prior, you held it down. You were doing the mono jumping game, I think. It was only been 1 week absence.
Well, no, I just meant like it just felt weird. It was like, we are on Thursday. Like that's sort of like my anchor, like during the week or whatever. It's just it's the one consistent time day thing, or really that's been consistent for years now, amidst all the other things in flux. So anyway, man, saying all that to say, it'll be nice to get back to it. It'll be nice to see the people, or quote unquote see the people who weren't able to make it, and hopefully a lot of people who did make it too. So it'll be good.
Awesome, brother. We'll let you get back to it and catch up with you on Thursday at the whip.
Right on, man. Sounds good.